Okay, there's always stuff happening. I'm not sure what. I'm sure that I've changed. I mean, incredibly. I mean, I've changed so much in the last 5 days that I cannot even begin to describe how much I've changed in the last couple of years. I mean, when your mother says, "I don't know who you are," then either she had a different idea about who you are, or you've really lost your way. I can't help it. There were just times where I smoked. And it's certainly safe to say that there may be times again, if I feel like that's what I need, then I'm going to give into it. And it's also a way to work with your greed to let go of certain methods for some time. You know, this is, you could ask now, why is this part of the shadow dance series? Because that's part of it. So if you think yoga is just about only doing breath work, okay, so my job is to also express through words what is happening to me. And for that I have to have long conversations in my mind. There's also other yogic practices, you know, to quiet your mind. I'm kind of stuck at, you know, I'm really clinging to words. But as I walk this path on my own, in that sense, you know, I don't have a group of people. You know, I have to learn how to give stability to myself. And when I look at all the stuff I was clinging to, right, it's like smoking and making jokes just to keep the room from feeling empty or cold, or, you know, you always want to make jokes. I've certainly started to quiet down and get more serious, because if I'm too open and really, you know, just light, what you have to understand is that a society that is full of hate and full of gossip and full of greed, you know, you may spark emotions of greed in people if you do your cleansing and you yourself feel happy and good. You will find that spending time with other people may show them emotions that they could project onto you, emotions that they find so you can, if you give yourself to groups of people, you give them power. So if you are a yogi and you feel like I am enlightened, I am about to enlighten, and you have a lot of work to do, you may feel like that you still need things because it's more important to do your job, which in my case is creating content, which is of course only one part of the job. But it's just I am being given energy and I have to invest it right. I have to learn what to invest myself into. And what I decided was that I'm going to invest myself into my content. Because in this way, I can give myself to a large number of people that may need help in the coming years for whatever reason, just to understand what's happening to them, because I do believe that we are heading into a time of, like upheaval. I mean, people are clearly frustrated with how they've been treated and used by, let's just say, let's just keep this simple, by the people who are finding themselves in positions of power and that just fill their own pockets with money that they receive from maybe tax payments, instead of, you see, now we live here in a city, and this city invests a lot of money into, making the city look pretty, but they do very little in terms of child, a lot of children are just angry, smoking cannabis like cheap, really bad cannabis and tobacco. They just hang around on the streets. There's just nobody to really take care of them because they're also really angry. And then you have these social workers. And that's just, to me, it's just part of the shadow. And if nobody takes care of them, I don't know, they may just, okay, it's a self-responsibility. Maybe they're just waiting. And maybe if I feel too drawn to helping them, I cannot really do what I actually want to do, which is just live my own life. But I just feel like I wanted to help, and I think I already helped them. I showed them a different way of life, and I introduced them to my existence, which helps my own cause as much as theirs, because they're free to choose, right? It's just sometimes you have to, if you've never seen someone walk barefoot in the snow, it's hard to believe that it's possible. But, at least Wim Hof has shown that it is possible. And, I just have this oracle where you just pull cards, and I actually think it's kind of useless because I should have all the knowledge inside of myself, but I also have insecurities and I get bored. And what does it mean to get bored? It means that you just fail to see what you could invest yourself in. Sometimes I need to feed myself with things such as, food. And once in a while I need different kinds of food, right? And sometimes I need to feed myself with experiences. And sometimes I need to feed myself with, spices, energetic enhancers that just assist the energy to flow in the right direction, or to flow at all. If I feel like it's not flowing, instead of doing breath work, I happen to work with diet a lot. And the reason that I work with diet and with psychedelics is because I realize that living in this society makes it, if you're a part of this, and you work, if you wanted to do a fasting cleanse, you'd probably need 2 weeks to do this. I would have found it impossible to fast while I have to actively do a job, especially when you're doing it the first time. I mean, that's something that just takes a lot of, turning within, feeling what's happening. If you're just doing a fast just like that and you go to work, I mean, that's like throwing LSD and going to work. It has the same kind of effect, only that instead of feeling powerful, you'll feel weakened because, you cannot rely on the food anymore. Which is why I continue to eat, because it's one way to hold on also. And I have already enlightened at some stage. Sometime in Africa, I've just enlightened. And ever since then, I have been trying to find out what keeps me enlightened and what diminishes my light. So, yoga is about the interplay between light and shadow, which means that if you come out of the darkness, which I certainly have, it's like what Carl Gustav Jung says in an interview, that there is a moment in his life where he just stepped out of kind of a mist. And the question is why these things happen. I often see myself like the shaman, he can transect reality by walking through portals. And walking through portals, I think, shamans just do it really consciously, right? They choose to go into the darkness and then they walk through it. And they can even do it for other people. And that's what I happen to be. A yogi. Another word for a yogi would be, shaman. Only that, there are different kinds of yogi. There are also yogi that just smoke all the time. And then there are yogi that will probably also eat cannabis. These things seem to assist me, so I'm like a mixture of the two. I'm not a great fan of fasting, simply because I see no need to fast in this life. If there are several lives, then I would say that in this one, I feel no need to fast. I have done fasting. It is impossible to say at this stage if I were to do it again. I feel like there is no need. All it takes is to just... Because if I stopped to eat now, I think I would just leave. One of the only things that grounds me is the food that I eat. But whether or not you think you've enlightened, there are still lessons to be learned, clearly. I just see my enlightenment as a moment in my life where suddenly I was aware of myself and that I was doing this to myself. It was the relationships that I had. Suddenly it all came together and I was being introduced to the idea that I actually have a choice. And because I suddenly realized that I have a choice, I could no longer be just ignorant. I mean, when you've once looked at the dark side of humanity and you see what, governments do, feel like maybe even good about doing just to get money, how they contribute to a humanity that is blind and dumb and toxic because, you can squeeze that. You can really squeeze people and suck them dry. And then you've got these people struggling for power on top. And then you've got, everybody's kind of struggling for power. And yogis can channel incredible amounts of power, but unless you know also how to take responsibility for that, you'll just be a demon in hell. And I cannot say that I'm an angel or a demon, because that's then the middle path, of course, and that's what yoga is. It's finding balance between the two and then being maybe neither, or just reacting to it, or just observing, how others are. So if somebody looks at me, I have seen people that just looked like they were dead, and they just couldn't find an inch of happiness in themselves, or at least not in my presence. And that's what I often fail to understand. I mean, why some of these women, they always seemed so happy when they were around others. But when they were alone with me, they just were so terrible. And then the question is, did that have anything to do with me? Or were they just like that? And they were just pretending, And that's why I said, I have no real interest in sex anymore, because it just turned out to be boring. And that's just weird. It's just wasn't worth the effort anymore to please women orally. I'm good at that. I'm good at oral sex. And I'm great to spend time with, but every time I tried, these women were just so shit. Either they just smelled like a cloaca down there, or they were just miserable all the time. I just didn't get it. What's the point? I mean, even without taking anything, I did have my tools and they helped me. And even that people seem to hate. That I have methods that help me. If I would have smoked cigarettes, but doing rapé, God forbid, that's just weird, blowing stuff into your nose. Yeah, but smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee and, watching porn, that's considered normal. But if you do anything that's like away from, I don't understand why people have to be so stuck on being right, You know, the only reason people are so insecure is because, you know, they never go into nature and humble themselves into being alive. You know, they just stay in this comfort. You know, and talking about these things just activates my shadow. You know, I just hate weakness. It's incredible. You know, so I can only distance myself to a certain degree. You know, I really hate weakness. I mean, it's hard to even say that, but I hate weakness. You know, nature loves strength. And if I see how weak people are, I just hate it. You know, I hate this weak chicken. And I even love hating it. I mean, there are things that I love. So I really love that movie. Alien versus Predator. Because, I mean, if I were a predator, I'd do exactly what these predators did. You know, I just would want to be tested, and I would want to fight the most evil, you know, shitty thing in the world. Because if you're a predator, you know, you want to fight something, and, you know, I am a warrior spirit, and we should all have that inside of us. And we're just trying to numb it all the time, while what really pushes me through is the pain. I mean, I'm looking for suffering like a madman. I mean, why do I think I go hiking in bare feet through the rain? You know, I love suffering. I love the pain because it's the only thing that's gonna make you grow, and that's gonna stop you from thinking. You know, one of the things that is a teaching of Zen is discomfort, man. You just have to learn to be comfortable when it's uncomfortable. And I just don't get it. I mean, I've been in situations with women where, you know, it was like raining. It was a beautiful summer evening. It was raining, and I don't know, I just, you know, it's just this bickering all the time. I was like, I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I don't know what your perspective is on life, but it's not mine. And they just couldn't snap out of it. You know, it's like they were stuck in pretending that something was wrong because apparently they wanted me to change it. You know, it's like, you know, sometimes you just spend time with people, you know, it's like women that just throw a tantrum, and what they want is that, you know, they actually want that the man has sex with them. And then I just think, why don't you come and start? You know, why do I always have to be the one to start? And that's just what I really don't like. I mean, okay, no, actually not. I've never, I mean, okay, I have moments where I was... So I don't always have to be right, but if you think you're right, you know, sometimes I'm just gonna shrug my shoulders, you know, whatever, I don't give a fuck. That's the F word again, I don't give a fudge. I mean, who cares? Why are we so stuck on all these words? It's just stupid. And of course, sitting here like this is also stupid. You know, why am I sitting here like this? You know? And one of the reasons why recording yourself also comes with a cost is because, yeah, sure, man, it's a form of being worshipped. And then you have to deal with whatever the ego is. You know, you just don't want it to get to your head too much, which I think I'm managing. I mean, people tell you that you've got an ego problem, but they're probably just jealous. Because I mean, I'm recording myself and I'm actually, I don't know, you know, I've got something to show. And if you don't like that, and you think I've got a problem with my ego, then I'm sure you've got a problem with your ego. Because apparently, you know, I'm sparking something in you, which is, I think you could do better. You know, and some people, they think they are so good, you know, like they are so good. And then you meet them and they just don't understand. And then they just feel miserable because, you know, why can he smile? You know, why can I not smile? How should I know? I mean, I'm just smiling, you know. The question then is, maybe they just had to open up in their own time. And I just don't get it, why things take so much time. I mean, okay, my things also took a lot of time. But, you know, I feel like I always knew how to pull myself out of these things. And a lot of women are just used to it. That man pulled them out of their shit because they want sex, right? So a lot of women, especially, you know, any kind of woman, you know, men feel attracted to them, they go to them, you know, they pull them out. I'm just not really interested in that. And maybe that's just what I'm missing. Maybe I'm just missing a woman that just sparks something in me. At the moment, it's just hard to say because all the women I meet are just boring. They never say anything. And if you say something, they don't even react to that. And then I think, well, either everyone's really shy, really stupid, really shallow, or they just have no interest in me. I mean, I do go into depth a lot. So unless a woman wants to go into depth, you know, I mean, we've just got nothing to say to each other. You know, I tried to engage with women and just to tell them things like, you know, they were just sitting there and they just looked like really miserable. They just said, you know, in India, you know, the yogic path or something, you know, it's just, that's the path of suffering. I mean, you're asking for suffering. And if you don't have suffering, you know, then you fast. And if you don't have suffering, you know, I mean, what's Paida Lajin but like active suffering, and then you just learn to deal with it. I don't know, that's just what I think. So, no, that's just what I know. It's not just what I think, it's what I know. But yeah. And there's always the joke, of course. Because, I mean, people think I like feel overly big, but the truth is, yeah, I sometimes feel that. I mean, I like myself to a certain degree. But I've also done my cleansing, but that only works, you know, because I could seclude myself from society. So what's the point of being jealous of someone, you know, that actively chooses to suffer in such a way, if you could never do that? Because it doesn't just take money. I mean, there are many people who have been born into middle-class families, or many people whose parents have money, and they never do any of the stuff that I did. I mean, I know many people who have way more money than I ever had, or have, or will have, or whatever, and they never do any of the stuff that I'm doing. You know, they just sit at home, they're just selfish, they never share anything. You know, they don't know how to cook because, you know, they just pay for it so that other people cook for them. I mean, how many people that, you know, you could have taken, you know, 1 billion people and you could have replaced them with me. And I guarantee you that none of them would have done what I did. Because everyone's different. I just saw my opening and I took it. And I've talked to enough people to know that none of these people could have taken the openings that I took, because they just would have never seen them. Right? You have to be devoted to this kind of life, you know, to live it. I mean, sorry, but have you seen what I sleep on? I've been sleeping on this for the last couple of years. This is all, my friend. This is what I sleep on. And that's a choice. Because I simply acknowledge how bad these things are for you. The beds that people use, right? And they have these, I mean, I've just seen one too many princesses and little princes, you know, these girls that just have these 2-by-2-meter beds that cost 2,000 euros, and then they're like, yeah, take me, you know. They just turned around and left. Because, you know, it just stinks. You know, I rather spend time with people who just, you know, smell the way they smell, because if I spend time in the presence of liars that just soak themselves in perfume and all these gimmicks that they use to hide how insecure they actually are, or how little life experience they actually have, you know, it just sickens me. You know, I rather spend time with people who are simply the way they are. And this is why the woman, you know, that was holding my face earlier, I mean, she was just true about who she is. She didn't smell like perfume. She was just the way she was. And I'm just so sick of men and women that just, you know, I like poor people. I mean, people who are poor in terms of money, much better. Which is why I prefer to buy the cheapest things that I find. Okay, if it comes to electronics, I would actually invest, right? If I would buy ceremonial cacao, then I'd just buy the one that it's like 60 euros for a kilo is a good price. You don't have to have more, you don't have to have less. I mean, you don't have to buy like coffee beans that have been defecated by some kind of weird cat or elephants. It's just bullshit. I mean, you could just do that yourself. It's just nonsense. I mean, coffee, and of course, it's just all luxury, but, you know, I also do like to have a bit of comfort. So I don't take it all away, you know. I just spice my life to a certain degree, and then I just work with the shadow. And if I feel too much hate, I just turn on the camera, because then I realize, oh wow, it wasn't hate at all. It's just, I just had to channel this energy into something. And you just have to ask yourself, what do I want to channel this into? What do I see value in? And I just started seeing value in myself and in sharing these experiences just as others have before. I'm sure if Ellen Watts would live today, which she does, yeah, come on people, you're looking at him. You don't get it? We're all the same. All the experiences Terence McKenna made, Ram Dass made, Ellen Watts made, they're all here. I've listened to them for hours, for days. I filled myself with them. And that has changed me in so many ways. What I learned from Terence McKenna is more valuable than anything any teacher or professor ever said to me. And I've studied for 9 years. Yeah, and I went to school for 18 years. I've learned more in 3 years than I learned when I, finished my studies and I just started. I learned more during the times where I was out in nature hiking than I learned in a second, in physics or something. That was just all bullshit. It's just sitting around, which is why it's funny that, there is no meaning in science, because science tries to just look outside of themselves and pretend like, they're objective. Yeah, fuck off. It's impossible. It's impossible. Everything is emotions. So to do science and to act like, you can distance yourself enough from, because what do scientists do? They're greedy. They're greedy because, they do science because they want to be discovered. Just like I do videos because, I want to share what I've learned. The only thing that's worth sharing is what you find in yourself. And that's what I'm sharing with my content. It's just something I found in myself, which is why I moved away from making all of these videos and I just film myself, because that's the best thing that I've found. Just observing this guy, it's just, I can watch myself and I actually like it. I am the one that was there at my birth, and that's gonna be there when I die. I'm the only thing in my life that's always there, which is why should I spend time with anyone else that wants to change me, that wants to shut me up when I want to talk? So I just stopped. If you want to hear what I have to say, turn on YouTube, buy a book, look up my podcast, whatever. Try to decipher my art. And the rest of the time, I'm just gonna do what I feel like I wanna do. And, it seems like nobody can stop me. Because, I'm working really hard. It's impossible to just get rid of someone like me. Because I've grown into a fine tree. But I also had help from some people, from family, certainly. And that's where I also feel, to certainly a certain degree, I want to give back. But I also look at what's being given, and then I give back accordingly, which is why there are people where I just say, yeah, you cannot afford me anymore. I've given freely and you took me for granted. You cannot afford me anymore. The way I see it, you owe me. You owe me big time. Big, big time. You could never pay that back. And I just have to live with that. So I stopped giving to everyone because, if you keep giving and giving and you think you're gonna get, I don't know, maybe that's my job and you're gonna get money for it, forget it. There was just nothing. There was, people just took me for granted. So I stopped doing that. And I started to just work on myself and to just share it and keep sharing it. Even in the face of losing hope, I just continued. Because if I stopped, then I would have died. So I didn't really do it for the people. I just did it to prove to myself that I can do it. Because it's so stupid to just die. What's the point? You're still here. But in the end, it's still your choice. Do what you want. It's just idiots that crane about, a life that ends. It's just idiots. If you understand anything about nature, you just have to understand what it means to let go. To just detach yourself from this emotional blob that's inspiring, millions of people or thousands of people to trample each other, on like shopping sprees and Black Friday, and it's like, what the fuck? How stupid can you be? It's like somebody says we're in a pandemic. Oh, be careful, you cannot talk about this. Somebody says we're in a pandemic and people just run to the shops and buy as much toilet paper as they can get their hands on. And if you stand there and you say, what are you doing? They feel righteous about it. You just don't give a shit. You just clean yourself with water if you run out of toilet paper. So the worst thing you can do is get sucked into these stupid games that people play. So yeah, I know enough about chess that I can live my life without buying the crap that people try to feed each other. I just look at you because I have studied humans and myself. I know how a lie looks like because I dissected my own. And then I just look at you and you won't like that at all. Unless you want to be true. But I haven't found anyone that really enjoyed being looked at by me. So I just look at myself and I say, I think I'm okay. I think I can manage, you know. I mean, I think I'm having whatever a good time is alone. But without the camera, I would feel very useless. You know, the only feeling I have that because I can share what I'm going through, I feel like there's a purpose to that. You know, it's not for nothing. You know, at least, you know, maybe someone can understand what I'm trying to say, because, and that's what it means then you just give up responsibility for what you're doing. You know, you just do it. You know, you just share it and you say, you know, it's not for me. You know, I can watch it, you know, I can enjoy it, but I'm not gonna, you know, it's not for me. You know, I'm the one going through it. I'm just sharing it. You know, I just record what I find in this thing. And then I just say it openly. I mean, I cannot speak openly here because it's censored. I cannot say everything, but I've already said it in my art, right? Because if you say it with words, right, they can try to pin you down. But if you say it with art, you can say the same thing. But then it's okay, right? Then it's okay. Which is why silence is the best way of dealing with liars. It's actually the best thing. Or people who just, you know, who just want to misunderstand everything so that they can feel righteous about whatever they say. You know, now it just gets too wobbly. And that's also part of it. You know, you start talking, you have a lot of energy available, you feel strong about what you're saying. And then at one point you actually forget the whole point of, you know, why am I even talking, right? It's like, why am I even talking still? And that's all show. I mean, I'm doing this like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm actually not tired at all. You know, it's just that, what else am I supposed to do? Am I just supposed to sit around and meditate? I mean, I'm already meditating. That's what people don't get. My mind is open. I split open my skull with psychedelics. I mean, it's just open, you know. I read 5 sentences in Harry Potter and, you know, I'm filled with truth and it's enough. You know, so yeah, my cup is full and I'm trying to empty it. But if it's empty, it also takes time to fill itself again, which is why it does take still time. You know, I'm not just full with energy. I just know how to, you know, if there's a lot of people, you know, then there's a lot to give. But if there's no one, I mean, how much am I going to give to myself? It's just stupid. And then, of course, comes the idea of, you know, fathering a child. But for that, I would certainly need a woman that knows what to do, because I never want to be in this situation again, where there's the woman that just thinks, you know, I'm there to make her happy. It's impossible to make someone happy. It's impossible. You can just show them that you're happy, and in that image, they may create happiness for themselves or seize it, you know, if you can explain why you're happy. And it's impossible to explain that. It's just there. You know, it's not something I did. It's just something that it's just there. And I just learned to stabilize it through everything I have done. Was always to understand what's happening. And I just push the limits, which is why, yeah, I just keep talking until this SD card is full. And it just takes so much time. But time's running out, 6%, 1 minute and 34 left. If you would just take anyone and just throw them into this room with me, they would just hate it. They would just get bored. They wouldn't know what to do. A smart person would just take a book and just sit there, and wait until I have time. A stupid person would start to complain, which is when I start to get a little bit, I can be intimidating, don't get me wrong. If I'm busy, you just should be quiet. If you have a problem with that, don't even bother. I can ground you, but if you annoy me, I'm not gonna reward you, and then you're just gonna feel stupid about yourself, but that's just your shame, right? That's just energy rising. You just have to work with that, let it go. At the same time, sure, if there would be someone here now, I would spend time with her, right? This is not a place for a him. Ahimsa, non-killing. If I eat chicken, I may not have killed it myself, but it got killed. Is this something that I have to do? Be vegetarian. But if I eat vegetarian, then these cows are also doomed to die. So does it really matter? And that is what I find complicated. Because then I should be vegan. But isn't